Good afternoon, Ghana. It's 12 o'clock. Time to reach for mobile water. Mobile water, unique in every way.
City 97.3.
Accra. Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
City News.
Days to the December 7 election. This is the Election Bureau. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Citi Prime News. We are coming to you live from our studios at number 11, Dr. Martin Loop in Adabraka, Accra. My name is Ajua Tenkramadom, and coming up this afternoon.
First, desist from doing it yourself. Don't go to them for the money for your campaigns. Don't go to solicit their vote.
Controversy in Parliament continues as Speaker of Parliament adjourns House indefinitely for a second time in 2 weeks. Meanwhile, the NDC caucus has accused the NPP side of wasting the nation's time.
The very people that requested for Parliament to be recalled failed to show up. Clearly, what we are seeing here is an abuse of the Constitution and the standing orders of Ghana's Parliament. The NPP minority caucus have indeed caused financial loss to the state.
But Adansi Asokwa MP on the ticket of the NPP, Katie Hammond, says they will cite the Speaker for contempt for disregarding the Supreme Court's stay of execution on his earlier ruling.
I am not comfortable. I don't believe that we're getting good prices for all that it's worth. I think there's something fundamentally wrong with the pricing of cement in the country.
Well, we'll be live in Parliament to bring you all the updates, but also coming up in the bulletin, 30 days to December 7 elections. Today, our spotlight is on the Lada de Kotopon constituency and what to expect.
They see me as a mother, and so they refer to me as Nyawo Papa. And believe you me, I trust God that the good people of Dadekotopon, they are going to vote for Etano Dolesowa.
2020, she was also first time, and she won. So I believe strongly that we can sail through with some hard work.
Still in the bulletin, Second D High Court adjourns NDC's cases against the disqualification of its Memphis Central Parliamentary candidate Joanna Jan Kujo till Monday. And later, Civil and Local Government Staff Association of Ghana CLOCSAC begins nationwide strike today over failure of government to finalize new salary structure. Stay with us for details of these and more stories coming your way in 30 minutes. Remember, the news is live across the globe on citynewsroom.com. Around the country, we are live on a number of affiliate stations. From the Western region, we are on Beach 105.5 FM in Takrade. In the Bunu region, J Life 95.5 FM in Sunyai. In the Shanti region, this is Focus 94.3 FM in Kumasi. Orange 107.9 FM in Kumasi. In the Volta region, Revival 99.3 FM in Tajavu. In the Northern region, this is Radio Bimbela 91.9 FM. In Upper East, Tanga 93.7 FM in Bolga. And in the Upper West region, find us on Tunsong 97.3 FM in Wa and Jirapa 96.1 FM. Please stay for details.
Citi Prime News at 12 midday. Update you on all the running stories and connects you to the newsmakers.
Grateful for your company. This afternoon, we begin the bulletin from Parliament. And the Speaker, Alban Bagbin, has adjourned the House indefinitely again due to the absence of business for lawmakers to deliberate on following the failure of the Business Committee to meet and prepare the necessary agenda on the floor. Now, the recall session initiated by the Majority Caucus had been expected to address several critical issues. However, the Majority Caucus or the NPP side failed to appear in the chamber, with Speaker Bagbin expressing disappointment. In his address to the House, Alban Bagbin highlighted the procedural challenges that prevented Parliament from moving forward, underscoring that without committee input and an agenda, the session could not proceed as planned.
We have no business before us to transact because the Business Committee as you know, they prepare a report, and this report is adopted by the House as business agreed by the House to transact during the course of the week. In the absence of that, there is no other authority that can put business before you which you have not adopted to transact. In view of the failure of the Business Committee to sit as a result of the refusal of those who requested for the recall to show up, we are compelled to once again adjourn the sitting of the House. Knowing the challenges we are facing, it is not advisable to be adjourning from day to day. And so I'll proceed once more to adjourn the meeting indefinitely. And the meeting, this extraordinary meeting, is accordingly adjourned.
So that's the Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin there. Well, leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament, Dr. Kezia Latoforsen, speaking shortly after proceedings, said the majority side or the NPP side had no business to conduct and thus wasted everybody's time.
The very people that requested for Parliament to be recalled failed to show up. Clearly, what we are seeing here is an abuse of the Constitution and the standing orders of Ghana's Parliament. The NPP minority caucus have indeed caused financial loss to the state. You can see we have over 100 NDC MPs here today out of the 137, and we are determined to do what is right. But colleagues, let me make this point to the people of Ghana. Let no one deceive you that the NDC is here to obstruct the people's business. No, we are rather here to work for the people of Ghana. We see this as a call to duty. We turn up in our numbers to do what we have to do, only to find out that the very group of people that called us to consider government business, they have no business. So the truth out there is that there is no urgent government business. There's no urgent government business, and the government has no business. They have given up, they've checked out, and they want the election to be done as soon as possible so that they can leave office. Fellow Ghanaians, let's vote against this incompetent government and have appeal.
You had the leader of the NDC caucus in Parliament, Dr. Kezia Latoforsen. Meanwhile, the Member of Parliament for Adansi Asokwa and Trade Minister Katie Hammond also says the majority side will cite the Speaker for contempt of court.
The Supreme Court has told him that he was wrong. Restore matters to what they were before you did that.
Line of action for the MPP.
Well, we will cite him for contempt. We will cite the Speaker for contempt. Watch the space. There is a ruling made by him. The Supreme Court is spoken. We want the decision of the Supreme Court to be respected. It's not a question of acknowledgement. It's a question of implementation. The Speaker made a ruling. It was unconstitutional. It was unlawful. By any...
You heard the Member of Parliament for Adansi Asokwa and Trade Minister Katie Hammond. But now the majority side or the NPP caucus is set to address Parliament or the House on whatever is happening in Parliament. So let's cross over now and hear what they have to say.
So what's the time? What's the time?
Afternoon.
12:07. All right, so ladies and gentlemen of the press, we, the MPP Majority Caucus, have called you this afternoon to address some few concerns regarding the conduct of the Speaker of Parliament. You may recall that Mr. Speaker made some pronouncements on the floor of the House, which resulted in the NDC Minority Caucus proclaiming themselves to be the so-called new majority. Speaker subsequently at a pre-sitting meeting, after the Supreme Court has stayed his ruling, said to us as leadership that he has not declared the NDC as the majority. Neither has he expressed a constitutional opinion on those 4 individuals, and that what he did amounted to an opinion that he expressed on the statement by Honorable Forson. At the said pre-sitting meeting, I, on behalf of my colleagues, the majority, inquired from Mr. Speaker whether our rights would be allowed by him to sit there, because that was not their rightful place in view of his own admission that he had not proclaimed them as such nor declared them as such. Speaker responded that indeed sitting arrangement of Parliament was a responsibility of the clerk to Parliament. This took me to the next step of inquiring from the clerk whether he allowed the NDC minority to sit on our seats. He said, indeed, we had our name tags, that is the MPP majority had their name tags at those seats that we already occupied, and that it was not he who did that. So obviously, one was expecting, Mr. Speaker, to direct the NDC to do the right thing. He refused. Subsequently, Mr. Speaker engaged the Council of State, or perhaps let me say the Council of State held meetings with Mr. Speaker. As a majority leader and leader of government business and leader of the House, I had the opportunity to also meet with them. The understanding I had from the meeting as a sequel to the meeting they had already held with Mr. Speaker was to the effect that Mr. Speaker will direct the NDC minority to sit at their right place, which is the left of Mr. Speaker. That was the understanding I had. I subsequently had a call from the Peace Council. The Peace Council informed me that they had engaged Mr. Speaker on the issue before Parliament, and Mr. Speaker had indeed indicated to the Peace Council that he had not ruled, neither has he proclaimed the NDC minority, and that should we resume, should the NDC minority will go back to their seats. Several other prominent Ghanaians, who for some good reasons I would not want to mention their names, who had engaged Speaker on this matter, had also reached out to us, the majority caucus. Engagement with them resulted in, indeed, there was no such ruling, which ruling would now proclaim the NDC as a majority, misrepresented to us, the majority. Yesterday, Mr. Speaker himself, in his press conference in the afternoon, enumerated a number of things. Amongst them, he said he had not made a ruling. He told the whole of the country that he had not made a ruling. So, if he claims that what he did was a formal communication in response to a statement from the minority leader, then why is he supervising chaos in the House? What Mr. Speaker did today amount to supervising chaos and bringing the image of democracy to disrepute. Yes. The NDC minority members were all over claiming that we, the majority, did not attend a so-called business committee meeting that they called. Who are they? When did we constitute a new committee in Parliament? I chair the business committee of Parliament. And when the clerk to Parliament asked for the business committee meeting, I was very explicit that the subject matter of the recall, which was approved by Mr. Speaker, is a very matter for consideration. So there's no need to have another business committee. Business committee is to decide on the business of the House. On this occasion, you have made an application, which application has been granted. And the items that were approved were the very things to be decided on. So I directed that the order paper should be printed to reflect all those items. Fortunately, Mr. Speaker himself read the two letters, the first one and the second one that amended the first, and indicated to the whole country that indeed our deputy majority whip, the second deputy majority whip, had actually sent those letters to him. He acknowledged him as such. Clearly, the NDC whip had actually sent those letters to him. He acknowledged him as such. Clearly, the NDC is on a war path. They want confusion in this country. They want lawlessness in this country. And all these are being supervised by Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
It is sad. It is very sad. And I would want to entreat you, the media, to call them out, to call the NDC out, to call Mr. Speaker out. Because what is it? What at all is the issue? You have made a ruling which you now say is an opinion. We disagreed with you. We've gone to another forum where, by law, that forum has the power to interpret the law. We respected Mr. Speaker's ruling. In all of these, my first interview after his ruling was to the fact that I respect him, I disagree with him, therefore my colleagues and I were withdrawing from the chamber and will pursue the matter at the Supreme Court, which matter he was already aware was pending at the Supreme Court. And I will repeat the point I made a week ago. Mr. Speaker had assured me in the presence of the second deputy speaker, Honorable Amakwesiama, in his office, that in view of the pendency of the suit, although the NDC had filed that petition, which petition was mounted by Harun Idrisu, he would hear them, but would wait and abide the decision of the court. I was fair enough, I was transparent enough to have engaged him as a head of this assembly, that because Haruna had raised the issue and to avoid confusion, I was going to the Supreme Court to seek interpretation. I did not go to Supreme Court in bad faith. And it wasn't the case that a matter was happening in Parliament and I ran away to the Supreme Court. I ran away from Parliament to Supreme Court to seek refuge. No. I foresaw confusion. And indeed, what Harun Idrisu filed, why did they set it aside? Harun Idrisu had initiated a process under Order 99 of our rules, which will require a process to be set in motion. Suddenly come under Order 99, which 92 did a statement metamorphose into a motion, which motion now will require a ruling. You see, Speaker is setting the country on fire. Yesterday, we were disappointed with his non-reconciliatory posture during this press conference. Indeed, we, the majority caucus, call on Mr. Speaker one more time to demonstrate statesmanship. We want Mr. Speaker to know that although we were not happy on the day he was elected, some of our colleagues perhaps has seen something good in him. It wasn't the NDC that put him there for him to do the bidding of the NDC. Perhaps people felt that he could be someone who will bring all of us together. Yes. There are things that we cannot say into the camera. But Mr. Speaker is hurting democracy. Yes. What Mr. Speaker is doing is to rehearse what the NDC is likely to do should they lose power, to bring chaos, to cause confusion. How can Mr. Speaker say that he respects the Constitution, but he will not subject himself to the dictate of the judiciary? How can you say that the judiciary is in collusion, is colliding with the president, and you mentioned the president as a person, as an individual. How? What Mr. Speaker is doing is in bad faith. First of all, he subjected himself to the jurisdiction of the Supreme Court. And after losing at the Supreme Court, he turns around to attack the Supreme Court. His own lawyer, my respected senior Tadiusori, in court, argued forcefully that Mr. Speaker made a ruling, and he sought to justify the so-called ruling and even challenge the jurisdiction of the court in entertaining my application. For him, the matter comes under Article 99 of the Constitution and not under Article 197. 97 G and H of the Constitution. To the NDC lawyer, to the Speaker's lawyer, who had received firm instructions from the Speaker, the position of the Speaker was home and dry, was on all fours right, and that Mr. Speaker had ruled, and that those members could not come to Parliament. Again, he had emphasized that the right forum was the High Court. Yes. All these points canvassed by Mr. Speaker's lawyer were overruled. The matter was heard in the full glare of the public. There was a live broadcast of the Supreme Court proceedings of that day. The ruling of the Supreme Court has been procured by me as plaintiff. The Supreme Court bailiff has served the ruling, the second ruling, on Mr. Speaker. His lawyers were given up to 3rd of November to file their written submissions, statements of case in defense, if any. So what are all these, perhaps I call it ex cathedra statement of Speaker, creating an impression as though those statements he's making are an authority on their own. It cannot be. A true Democrat will respect the rule of law. Yes. And that is why we decided to respect him. You know, ladies and gentlemen of the press, NPP, our tradition is to respect rule of law. Yes. It's out of deference to Mr. Speaker. That is why we did not enter the chamber. That we should share in that chaos theater with them. Never. Never. We will not. MPP will not. We will not. Therefore, don't be swayed by their lies and their propaganda. The chaos they started is what they want to end. We will not allow that. We believe that we have to win the elections right at the polling station and would go and work. Right now, what the NDC has done, basically, are the following. One, they don't want Ghanaians to receive their pay, public servants, because they know that after the elections, there will be no budget. And to be able to pay Ghanaian workers, there will be the need for parliamentary approval of the budget first quarter. That would be on account, appropriation on account. That's it's a constitutional requirement. So that is what they want. They want to stampede it. Two, they want to again create a certain impression that Ghana is lawless. Ghana is not lawless. We will not allow them to give a wrong impression to the international community. We will respect the law. Three, all these businessmen, you know, their fear is that under the 1D, 1F, these companies are going to create jobs. These companies will employ people. So their fear is that should these be addressed, it will mean that all their propaganda of unemployment would fall flat. So further to frustrate businessmen and drive them away. Are these Democrats? No. Now there are important things to do. We have the free SHS bill, which is before Parliament. Their main aim is to conspire with Mr. Speaker to prevent the free SHS bill from being passed.
Into law.
And in an unlikely situation where they see the light of day in the election, cancel it. That, oh, after all, there's no law backing it. Their main target is the free SHS bill. That is why there was a pre-announcement of its laying in Parliament, and you remember how they fought against it. So it's an opportunity for them to, as it were, prevent the free SHS bill from being passed. And if they succeed in doing that, to them, in their wishful minds, in their wishful thinking, parents will get upset and then say that after all, the free SHS was not working. The free SHS has benefited many Ghanaians in spite of the challenges. We know as a country, the reforms that have been made by two ministers, Dr. Matthew Opoku Prempeh and Dr. Yao Educhum. These two gentlemen who were assigned to superintend over the education ministry have done so well. And the outcome of their works is known to all Ghanaians. This is what the NDC want to set back. Thank you very much indeed. I would want... I'll get it. Now, they also made some noise in the chamber. They also made, they double talk. They double talk. They do double speaking, double talking. Whenever a person lies, he fails to even be inconsistent. In the chamber, where they rushed to go and sit, and again, the clerk this morning, we pre-inspected the chamber. The clerk diligently arranged our name tags at where they were. They came and they physically removed them. And this is where, with the greatest respect and in all humility and in all modesty, my dear friends in the media, help us to shape opinion in the right way. Get the message across. They came in there and unlawfully removed our name tags, pulled their chairs to our place and sat on our seats. And Speaker, the cameras, I was watching in my office, and I'm sure you guys are set up. You set your cameras up proud to Mr. Speaker's arrival. You saw what happened. Let the Ghanaian people know. Now they said our members were not present. They claim that those, if indeed the Supreme Court had ruled, why were those members who were affected not in the chamber? Because Mr. Speaker has said nothing about them. This is what Kwame Agboja, making that point. Honorable Kwame Agboja said the members have had a favorable ruling from the Supreme Court, so they should have come. Really, if the Supreme Court ruling is being respected by them, why did they move to the right of Mr. Speaker? My respected colleague Cynthia Morrison is here. I said it in my plaint in court that she remains a member of our caucus, and she's here with us as a majority caucus. Nothing short of that. So I would want you to take note. Now, we look forward to engaging Mr. Speaker in the next few hours and days. We pray that he does the needful. If he doesn't do the needful, we will continue to rely on the law to get the right things done. The partisan politics that they are festing on us in the chamber must cease, must end. Parliament is a chamber for decent people. Parliament is a chamber for tolerant Democrats. Parliament is a chamber for people who want nation building without taking advantage of situations to score cheap political points. We will yield to these high values and high tenets of democracy. Thank you very much indeed. Okay, no.
So just gone by was the leader of the NPP caucus in Parliament, the Honourable Afenyo Markin, addressing the press conference on the adjournment. Key issues he spoke about was on the sitting arrangement. He accused the Speaker of Parliament of supervising chaos in the House and bringing the image of democracy in disrepute. He also says that the NDC caucus is deliberately delaying the passage of the Free SHS bill, but he says that they're going to engage the Speaker in the next few hours on what is happening. We apologize for not being able to bring you some of our headline stories and also some teasers, but let's run you quickly through one of them now. And a second-D High Court presided over, we'll have to cross over because it appears the majority leader or the leader of the NPP caucus in Parliament is still speaking.
Of not obeying the Supreme Court's decision, and let us also pray that civil society and Ghanaians in general will prevail upon the NDC lawless minority to know that decency is the rule of the game. Thank you very much. She's a member of Parliament. Listen. Wait. You see, wait. I will not in any way attack any media house. But I believe that the discourse is a two-way traffic. For instance, I won't mention that station's name, but a station invited me. And when I went for a program, after we had agreed on the issues, they now said to me that a big man from that station says that they should address me as leader of MPP caucus. And I asked that a Speaker of Parliament has made a pronouncement. Granted, at the first instance, he was right. A superior court has overruled him. So the status quo has been restored. Further, the Speaker has challenged the first decision of the court. All right? And that has been adjudicated upon. And it has been determined. Yes. So 2 rulings have come out after his ruling, which he calls an opinion. Is there an issue of who is in majority and minority? You, the media, I want to ask you. So I would plead with you, no matter how you feel, let us all help with the law. We all know in the U.S., in the U.S., I'm referring the media to something that happened in the U.S. We all know that CNN leans towards the Democrats. If you watch CNN carefully, you will know that CNN leans towards the Democrats and Fox leans towards the Republicans. But as soon as Trump was elected, CNN put all their biases aside and went straight. In fact, they were among the first news, let me finish, to have projected Trump's victory in spite of all their disagreement with Trump's views or political views. You get my point? And I would want to urge on you, the media, to do same. You may not be in support of MPP. I agree. Yenina ya dream to me ya baako. Yenina media yen to me ka say media bi antro dia eye MPP for there. But se court kasa. Me pe situation a media betro say eye Afenyo Markin, leader of MPP group. Afenyo Markin ni MPP for eye majority. And that is the law. Mumbua, Speaker of Fuma Monka, yes, we are Fuma Monka. Na Ghana Baku Pena Ewo, their NDC for any year no person Ghana Ejetomo. Their Speaker D can hear no. Speaker, their Speaker D can hear no. Yan Konto Kwao, or card your car no. Yen didn't attempt. Ya catch and say, Speaker, what dear waka? Ya de courts. Na court ebia asem no court edi kan ebia asem no Speaker say on tia se of a lawyer Emma lawyer no call court. Eko kasama on no speaker said there be the Supreme Court ka no wafo Supreme Court afom. Supreme Court the asem no Ghana nyina hwe TV. Ena Supreme Court aka said there be speaker. Enya wo tumi na obetumi aka say obi seat we declare vacant. Eyenyen inti asem no eda yenim. Asem no so beda ha na wo ya aware. Inti eba ne say.
So that's the majority leader, the Honourable Alex Afenyo-Markin, addressing the press on happenings today in Parliament and also the Speaker's press conference yesterday, among many other developments we've seen over the past 2 weeks. It's becoming more interesting by the second.
Well, what I have to say is, look, I hold the Honourable Markin in high regard, and he's made very valid points. Which I identify with to a large extent, you know, but with great respect to him. These are matters he could have, even if he would not go with his entire, what do you call it, routine, what's the proper word? Like, the troops, right? The troops, right? He could still have gone to the chamber and raised these issues, as I said earlier. Which would then put the Speaker on real notice that despite all the shenanigans he may be doing, I have drawn the matters to your attention expressly, and so he should deal with it. He didn't do that. And I think that is a great failure on the part of the majority. And he leads the majority. That is what he ought to have done. Or maybe even send a member of the group to go to the chamber and raise the issues and tell the Speaker, oh, Mr. Speaker, it is not that we don't want to come here, but we consider the likely chaos that would arise as a result of the obvious misconduct of on the part of the minority. That is why we have chosen to stay away. I have been delegated by the majority leader to draw your attention to this matter so that the records will reflect. The Hansard will capture the same as having been raised on the floor of the House. So that the people of Ghana will see what the Speaker will do about it. Because at that point...
Just a second. I believe the Honourable Cynthia Morrison, one of the people, is saying something.
Still a member of Parliament, the ticket of MPP. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
thank you very much.
Thank you. The contempt, no, the contempt will come and the impeachment will come after the contempt.
So, Richard, continue with your submission.
Yeah, so I was saying that either the majority leader needed to have gone to the chamber himself, either with the rest or some of his people, or he ought to have delegated that authority, so that he would draw the Speaker's attention that, look, Mr. Speaker, we have taken notice of your indirect encouragement of the misconduct that we are seeing.
Sorry, I have to interrupt again and pick the Honourable Majority Leader.
Okay. Chaos in the chamber, and he knew that the right thing to do was to engage us and to get the NDC to sit on his left. He refused to do that. So we would compel Parliament to sit. And for the right government business to be transacted. We are going to do it. We will not allow the Speaker to have his way. He's not a member of Parliament. The Speaker is not a member of Parliament. He presides over Parliament. We, the members of Parliament, determine the business of Parliament. So we will call Parliament again.